And John loved Colorado. It changed his life. He had the ability to put into words, I think, things that we all felt.
He was America's troubadour, the golden-haired country boy with a voice as clear and bright as a Rocky Mountain morning. John Denver wasn't just a singer. He was a phenomenon. His music was the soundtrack for a generation searching for something pure and real. Songs like "Take Me Home, Country Roads" and "Rocky Mountain High" were more than hits. They were anthems to a simpler, better way of life. He sang about the beauty of nature, the comfort of home, and a love so profound it could fill up your senses. To the world, his marriage to Annie Martell was a fairy tale. She was the muse behind Annie's Song, one of the most iconic love ballads ever written, a testament to a love that seemed as perfect as his public image. For years, they were seen as the perfect couple, living a dream life in the mountains of Aspen, their love story immortalized in music. But for decades, a persistent rumor has cast a long, dark shadow over this idyllic image, whispers of a private life far more turbulent and painful than his songs ever let on. It was a rumor his first wife, Annie Denver, remained silent about for nearly half a century. But the truth has a way of coming out. The story that has since emerged is one of a turbulent marriage, the real story behind his most famous song, and the dark allegations that have followed their family for decades. It's a story far more complex, more human, and more heartbreaking than the legend. It's a story of a great love, yes, but also of immense pain, of a man struggling under the crushing weight of his own fame, and of a woman who eventually found her own path. The fairy tale, as it turns out, was hiding a devastating secret, and now we can finally piece together the truth. Before the world knew him as John Denver, he was Henry John Deutschendorf, Jr., son of a stern, decorated Air Force pilot. Growing up in a military family meant a life of constant motion, moving from New Mexico to Arizona, Alabama to Texas. This nomadic childhood was tough for the introverted young boy. In his own autobiography, "Take Me Home," he described the deep loneliness of always being the new kid, of struggling to make friends and find a place where he belonged. This feeling of being an outsider would become a defining force in his life, shaping both the man and the artist. He found his salvation at age 11 when his grandmother gave him a 1910 Gibson acoustic guitar. That old guitar became his constant, companion, and his key to unlocking a world where he finally felt he fit in. Music was more than a hobby. It was a lifeline. He'd play for hours, pouring all of his adolescent loneliness into its 6 strings. It was through music that he could finally communicate the feelings he kept locked away. His talent was obvious. He honed his skills in the Tucson, Arizona Boys Chorus, and by the time he was in college studying architecture, the pull of a musical life was just too strong. He dropped out and, in a bold move that defied his conservative family, headed for Los Angeles to chase his dream. That's when he shed the name Deutschendorf, too long for a marquee, he thought, and became John Denver. He chose the name as Ta, a tribute to the capital of his beloved Colorado, a state whose natural beauty spoke to his soul. It was a symbolic rebirth. His big break came in the mid-1960s when he beat out over 200 other singers to become the lead for the Chad Mitchell Trio. This was his first real taste of the music industry. For 2 years, he toured the country, living the life of a traveling musician. It was during this time that he wrote a song that would change everything, a melancholy tune about goodbyes called "Leaving on a Jet Plane." While it wasn't a hit for him at first, the folk supergroup Peter, Paul, and Mary recorded it, and their version soared to #1. The song's success proved John Denver's words could move millions, even if they didn't know his face yet. The shy boy from Roswell was on the verge of superstardom, but he was missing one thing: his muse. The year was 1966. While on tour with the Chad Mitchell Trio, John's group played a concert at Gustavus Adolphus College in St. Peter, Minnesota. It was there he first saw Annie Martell, a bright-eyed college sophomore. Years later, Annie would reminisce about their first meeting. After the main concert, John was playing guitar for a small campus musical. Annie's job was simple. She carried signs across the stage between acts. Yet, to John, she was captivating. He later told her he remembered exactly what she was wearing that day: blue jeans, a flannel shirt, and penny loafers. Their connection was immediate. They started writing letters, bridging the distance of his tour schedule with heartfelt words. A few months later, they met again, and the spark ignited. John proposed to Annie over the phone, a gesture that perfectly captured the whirlwind nature of their courtship. On June 9, 1967, after just 9 months of dating, they were married. Their early years were spent in Minnesota, but John's heart was always in the mountains. They soon relocated to Aspen, Colorado, a place that would become central to his, music and their life together. They built a home, a sanctuary nestled in the very landscape he sang about. It was here they started building a life away from the growing pressures of his career, but fame was inescapable. As John's solo career exploded, the idyllic life they imagined was constantly interrupted by long tours and recording sessions. It was a tough transition. Annie, who had her own dreams, found herself in the role of a rock star's wife, a position she felt completely unprepared for. She later admitted they were both too young and immature to handle the overwhelming nature of his success. In the shadow of his celebrity, she felt her own identity begin to fade. Despite the growing pains, they were determined to build a family. After facing difficulties having children of their own, they adopted a son, Zachary John, and a daughter, Anna, Kate. John adored his kids. He once said, "When I die, Zachary John and Anna Kate's father, boy, that's enough for me to be remembered by." On the surface, they had it all: a beautiful family, a home in paradise, and a career that was reaching for the sky. But behind this perfect picture, the intense pressures of fame were creating cracks in their foundation. It was during one of these periods of intense strain that their love story, and its darkest chapter, would be immortalized in a song. By 1973, the marriage was at a breaking point. The constant touring and pressures of fame had driven a wedge between John and Annie. The idyllic life in Aspen had become filled with tension. They went through what Annie would later describe as a pretty intense time together, leading to a brief but painful separation. During this time apart, Annie recalled feeling utterly lost. The separation lasted only a week, but she said it felt like 3 months of nonstop crying. Finally, after a long-distance phone call, they reconciled. Annie made it clear her love was unconditional, and they decided to try again. It was right, after this reconciliation, with their relationship still fragile, that John had a moment of profound inspiration. He went skiing on Ajax Mountain in Aspen, his favorite place of solace. As he rode the chairlift, surrounded by the breathtaking beauty of the Rockies, his mind cleared. He began to reflect on the immense joy he felt in his marriage and the profound relief of their reunion. In his autobiography, he wrote that he felt a hypersensitivity to how beautiful everything is. The song came to him all at once. In the 10 minutes it took for the ski lift to reach the top, Annie's song was born. He raced down the mountain, went straight home, and wrote it all down. Annie has confirmed this story over the years. He left to go skiing and he got on the Ajax chair on Aspen Mountain and the song just came to him, she recalled. He skied down and came home and wrote it down. Initially, it was a love song and it was given to me through him, and yet for him, it became a bit like a prayer. The lyrics, "You fill up my senses, like a night in a forest, like the mountains in springtime," were a direct expression of the awe he felt, blending his love for her with his spiritual connection to nature. The song was a massive success. Released in 1974, it became a global phenomenon and an anthem for lovers everywhere. To the public, It was the ultimate confirmation of their perfect love story. But looking back, the song feels more complex. While it was born from a moment of genuine love, it also came from a place of great pain. Some now see it not just as a love letter, but as a plea, a desperate attempt to capture a fleeting moment of peace in a relationship already under immense strain. The song that immortalized their love also, in a way, papered over the deep cracks that were already forming. While Annie's song was climbing the charts, the reality of their life was growing more difficult. The fame that gave John a platform was also building a cage around him. The down-home optimism he projected was a difficult persona to maintain 24/7. Behind the curtain, a darker, more troubled side of John Denver was beginning to show. In his own autobiography, John admitted to the strain his career placed on their marriage. He spoke of the years they spent drifting apart, a slow erosion caused by his time on the road. He described a growing inflexibility when he would return from tour, a struggle to fit back into a family life that had moved on without him. For Annie, the problem was deeper than a busy schedule. She felt they were simply too young to handle the seismic shift of his superstardom. In a 1979 interview with People magazine, she confessed to feeling insecure in their relationship and that she felt she had lost her own identity in the machine of his fame. This is where the whispers of a darker reality began. For decades, the word volatile has been attached to their relationship. And the truth, confirmed by John himself and echoed in Annie's own accounts from that time, was that these rumors weren't unfounded. Friends and colleagues have alluded to his dark side, describing a man who, despite his aw-shucks demeanor, could be intense, perfectionistic, and prone to deep bouts of frustration. Most shockingly, John confessed to his own demons in his autobiography, Take Me Home. He wrote with surprising honesty about his infidelities during his marriage to Annie and his use of drugs, including LSD and cocaine. He admitted that behind his bright smile was a man often tormented by insecurity. The love was real, but so was the pain. The gentleman who sang of filling up the senses was, in private, battling demons that threatened to consume him and his marriage. Of all the stories that have swirled around the Denver marriage, one stands out as particularly shocking, the story of the chainsaw. For years it was whispered about, seeming almost too extreme to be true. But in his own autobiography, John Denver admitted it happened. The incident reportedly occurred in 1982, as their marriage was falling apart. The divorce was underway, and they were dividing their assets. John arrived at their Aspen home one morning, enraged. He claimed his anger was sparked because Annie had cut down some trees on their property. He wrote about returning to the house, and when Annie opened the door, he came in wielding a power saw. According to various reports, pieced together from his book and other sources, a terrifying display of fury followed. He allegedly grabbed and nearly choked her before turning his rage on the home they had built together. He used the chainsaw to destroy furniture, including their dining room table. The horrifying climax came when he took the saw to their marital bed and cut it in half. In his book, Denver reflected on the incident with a chilling lack of self-awareness. She told me later, I had come to kill her. Now why would she think that? He wrote. He later expressed regret, mainly worrying. What if the story got out? This event was the brutal physical manifestation of the emotional volatility that marked their marriage. It was the point of no return, the moment private pain exploded into an act of undeniable violence. It shattered any remaining illusion of the peaceful, gentle man the world adored. The man who sang of sunshine on his shoulders was capable of a darkness that was truly frightening, a darkness that severed the final threads of their legendary love story. The divorce was finalized in 1982, ending a 15-year marriage that had been a cornerstone of the folk music world. The split was bitter and painful for both of them. In public, John blamed the demands of his career. In private, the truth was much messier, a story of infidelity, emotional turmoil, and the violent outbursts that had marked their final years. The divorce scarred them both. John's second marriage, to Australian actress Cassandra Delaney in 1988, was also short-lived, ending in another bitter divorce. He candidly admitted this second split was even more humiliating. It seemed the peace he sang about so eloquently in his music continued to escape him in his own life. Annie, on the other hand, chose a different path. After the divorce, she stepped away from the public eye. She never remarried and dedicated herself to raising their two children, Zachary and Anna, in Aspen. She remained famously private for decades, a silent keeper of their shared history. Despite the pain, she maintained a remarkable grace. She built a life for herself on her own terms, becoming active in her local community but staying far from the spotlight that had cost her so much. John Denver's life was tragically cut short on October 12, 1997, when the experimental plane he was flying crashed into Monterey Bay, California. He was only 53. His death sent shockwaves around the world, and fans mourned the loss of a voice that had brought so much comfort to so many. His legacy was cemented as one of America's most beloved entertainers. In the years after his death, the rumors about their marriage continued. But Annie remained silent, allowing his public legacy to stand largely unexamined. She held her story close, processing a lifetime of love and pain in private. So, what is Annie's truth? After decades of maintaining a dignified silence, a clearer picture has emerged, not from a splashy new tell-all, but from piecing together the facts that have been there all along. The full story comes from John's own shocking confessions in his autobiography, from Annie's own rare interviews over the years, and from the accounts of those who knew them best. The story they tell is that the persistent rumors were true. Their beautiful love story was also one of deep, private pain. The emotional volatility, the struggles with fame and substance use, and the controlling behavior were all real. The man the public adored was not always the man behind closed doors. Crucially, the story of Annie's song is also true. It was a pure and heartfelt love letter, born from a moment of genuine reconciliation. But with the full picture, it also becomes something more poignant. A prayer from a man who, perhaps, sensed that the relationship he was so desperately trying to hold together was already doomed. In understanding this, we get a profound lesson in the complexities of love, fame, and memory. Both sides of the story are true. The love was real, the tenderness was real, and the pain was real. Her side of the story isn't an expose, it's a clarification. It's the story of a woman taking ownership of her own narrative, a story that was, for so long, defined only by a man's song. The story of John and Annie Denver isn't a simple one of a hero and a victim. It's a profoundly human story about two young people who fell in love and were swept up in a whirlwind of fame that neither was prepared for. John Denver gave the world a gift with his music, a vision of peace and beauty that continues to inspire. His legacy as one of the most beloved artists of the 20th century is secure. But thanks to the full, complicated truth, we now have a more complete picture. We understand that behind the gentle ballads was a man wrestling with profound personal demons. We see that the perfect love immortalized in Annie's song was a fleeting, precious moment in a much longer, more complicated journey. Knowing the truth doesn't diminish the beauty of the music. If anything, it deepens it. It reminds us that art often comes from places of great conflict, that the most beautiful songs can be born from both joy and sadness. The fairy tale may have been a fiction, but in its place, we have something far more valuable, a real human story. What do you think? Does knowing the full story behind Annie's song change how you hear it? Does it alter your perception of John Denver's legacy? Share your thoughts with us in the comments below, and if you found this story compelling, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more explorations into the hidden stories behind the music we love. Thanks for watching.